This is John Congress Monkey, and he's got a huge problem. In a few hours, John is going to be voting on going to war with another jungle. But John isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. Show him a map of the world, and he can't point out this jungle's location. He doesn't know how many monkeys live inside this other jungle. And at this point, does he even know why they're going to war? But the clock's ticking, and John doesn't have the time for a geopolitics lecture at MIT. But he does have time for a coffee chat with an old friend, Yuri. See, Yuri is a bit of an expert on war, running his business all around the world and making a fortune. Officially, he runs a logistics firm. Unofficially, Yuri is a supplier of heavy-duty machinery, the kind that's capable of downing planes, busting bunkers, and turning brick walls into brick memories. Now Yuri's not here to tell John how to vote. That would be illegal, and we can't have that in the jungle of the free. No, Yuri's just here to provide advice. He brings charts and infographics to their lunch date. He explains to John why this war is necessary. He's even brought a few thoughtful gifts for John. Nothing extravagant. Just some football merchandise, a speaking gig at a local fundraiser, and a private tour of the Banana Bynamics weapons testing facility. By the end of the meeting, John thinks he's got it all figured out. War? Sounds noble, but the real winner is Yuri and his business partners. John's wrapped around his finger, and he doesn't even know it. And now, John's off to cast his vote, fully informed by the kind of monkeys who stand to make billions of bananas from the outcome. This is lobbying. So what exactly is lobbying? Remember how when we were wee monkey cubs, we would beg our parents to buy that toy or video game? Or when we'd ask them to prepare our favorite meals for dinner? We tried to convince our parents to do something, and that's lobbying in a nutshell. Except instead of Bionicle toys or buying Warcraft 3, grown-up monkeys try to persuade government monkeys to make big decisions, like investing in weapons, going to war, or anything in between. In other words, lobbying happens when groups called lobbies try to persuade government officials to make decisions or pass laws that benefit them. These lobbies are usually made up of several companies from the same industry, pooling their resources to push for what they want. But they don't act directly. They hire monkeys called lobbyists. Lobbyists are monkeys like Yuri. Subject matter experts who are paid by these lobbies to influence how government monkeys act and vote. If their efforts succeed, the government will pass laws that help the lobby, or block laws that might hurt their interests. Makes sense now why Yuri was dead set on convincing John to vote in favor of the war, right? Defense contractors will never run out of business since they're the ones creating the demand for their own products. Same goes for healthcare, foreign policy, or trade agreements. Because whenever there's something for companies to gain, the lobbyists will be out in force. Put bluntly, lobbying is all about convincing and persuading public officials to act in a certain way. It's been a hotly debated feature of the US jungle ever since its independence, because of how it blurs the lines between serving the public and serving corporate interests. But how is it done? Let's go back to John and Yuri. In John's eyes, he's known Yuri since their university days. They played football together in school and kept in contact after they went their separate ways. For all intents and purposes, John thinks of Yuri as his friend. Now John is a respected lawmaker, and Yuri has become a subject matter expert in the defense industry. One day, a lobby of defense contractors with firms like Banana Bynamics and Banana Martin reaches out to Yuri with an offer he can't refuse. Millions of bananas for a simple job. That job? Persuade his old friend John to vote in favor of going to war. And while friendships matter, not many can turn down that amount of few bananas. The root of all evil is bananas, as they say. Yuri, never one to shy away from a windfall, sees his opportunity. News breaks that Congress will soon vote on whether to get involved in another conflict, and there's just enough time for Yuri to ring up John and invite him out for lunch. Over coffee and eggs Benedict, Yuri shares stories about his work, his business model, and does everything he can to convince his old friend. Where presentations and spreadsheets might fail, gifts help push the sales pitch past the finish line. For example, Yuri knows John loves Bomb Trady, the football superstar, so he buys a few signed jerseys from scalpers online for a few thousand bananas and graciously offers them to John. As a token of thanks for making time for lunch despite their busy schedules. John leaves the lunch feeling grateful that his friend is there to counsel him on something he knows little about, and now feels confident in his decision to vote in favor of the war. But what about Yuri and his corporate backers? They're the real winners. Yuri managed to convince his friend that the war is not only noble, but that it's the duty of the jungle to stand up for democracy. Oh, and defense contractor stock gains. Here's the thing. John is just one out of hundreds of different officials at all levels of government, being targeted by lobbying efforts to shape the jungle we live in today. All bought and paid for by megacorporations masquerading as special interest groups. But how did we get here? See, the term lobbying actually gets its name from monkeys who used to wait in the public waiting areas, or lobbies of various federal offices, hoping to catch a moment with government officials. But now, lobbies have evolved, and so have their tactics. Gone are the days where lobbyists camp the atriums of government buildings. Like Yuri, they now prowl around red carpet events, golf courses, big-ticket fundraisers, and alumnus clubs of private universities. These hotspots are teeming with rich and influential monkeys, making them the prime hunting ground for lobbyists. Why? Because it's easier to build friendships and connections outside of the workplace. Imagine you finished a long day of work, and the only thought on your mind is going home to your wife and kids. The last thing you'd want is a monkey in a suit and tie talking to you about how their new artillery system makes a mockery of the Geneva Convention. But it's a completely different story when lobbyists strike up conversations at a social function, where these lawmakers are primed to network and build up their own connections. At the golf course, enroll in the same monthly tourney as the representative and strike up a conversation after the game. At a fundraiser, make up a sob story about how their policies helped your imaginary niece or nephew, then ask them for a photo and offer to treat them to a meal. What about alumni gatherings? Met Gala events? The possibilities are endless when you really think about it. And some lobbyists have even taken it to the extreme, using the family members of lawmakers to get close to their targets. But we're missing something. See, this approach doesn't just make it easier for lobbyists to speak to lawmakers. It also takes advantage of a powerful psychological trick. Monkeys trust their friends far more than a random monkey they just met. Like it or not, monkeys are social creatures, and lobbies have found a way to use this need for social connection to push their own agendas. So why is this allowed? Some monkeys are very quick to point out that lobbying does have its uses. It is true that not all politicians are well-versed in everything from finance to healthcare to foreign policy. The idea is that lobbying gives them access to information, technical details, and real-world perspectives they might otherwise miss. In theory, this helps them make better decisions on complex issues that are outside their areas of expertise. Of course, there are laws meant to regulate lobbying and keep things transparent, like the Lobbying Disclosure Act and the Honest Leadership and Open Government Act. But as we'll find out, the ones who hold the bananas are the ones with the real power. And that's what makes this whole thing a giant mess. But here's the truth. This whole idea that lobbying helps clueless lawmakers sounds noble until you remember every lobbyist is paid a mountain of bananas to sell a narrative, one that's approved by their corporate backers. Backers, including megacorps like Banana Bynamics or Lock Banana Martin, aren't in it for democracy. Despite their marketing spin, they're drooling over the windfall the moment Congress signs off on a shiny new arms deal. I don't know about you, but this absolutely screams conflict of interest to me. Monkey is tired of this bullshit. And sure, we've got disclosure forms and bans on certain gifts, but you can't pass a law against making friends or monitoring someone's private life. Yuri can still hit the golf course, slip John a signed bomb tradie jersey, and chat national security over drinks. The jungle can regulate lobbyists on paper all day long, but the reality is that it's impossible to police every private dinner, college reunion, or fundraiser. And when you combine this with the abomination of insider trading, you get a whole broken system that benefits no one other than those already rich and powerful enough to have access to insider information. Just imagine if Yuri and his clients knew that the vote for war is going to succeed, and tell their friends to load up on defense stocks before the result goes public. Everyone involved would make enough to retire. To find out how that works, check out our video here. So what can we do about it? Unfortunately, not much. Ironically, any push to abolish or further regulate this space will likely be lobbied against by every single megacorp in the country. When you think about it, it's equal parts genius and dystopian. Companies have managed to entrench themselves so deeply into the system that prying them loose seems impossible. But there is a silver lining. When all else fails, follow the bananas. Because in this jungle, money talks, and thanks to some policies, Lobbyists must disclose what they're lobbying about and which branches or agencies they contact. So the next time you see senators or Congress monkeys suddenly changing their views or pushing very hard for a specific bill, you'll know that this is lobbying working its dark magic. If any monkeys are confused, just remember that this is just a simple explainer of how lobbying works. This video is for educational purposes only, and any resemblance to people, places, or businesses, real or fictitious, is purely coincidental. Please do not sue Monkey. Thank you so much for watching, and subscribe for more content just like this.